Hey, it's Amelia. Today I am filming my intro to my 2019 no-buy. I've actually been doing an eyeshadow no-buy since mid-April, so this is an extension of that, and I'm going to include other categories. It is the end of January, and I just wanted to mention I've spent the past 2 weeks taking care of my parents because they've been sick, and not like terminally ill, but just like sick. And I'm going back to school next week, so I don't know what my filming schedule is going to be. Also, I sort of have a second topic to go along with this that I decided I'll make another video. So after this one, I'll film it, or tomorrow I'll film it. So if this feels sort of like an incomplete video, it's because I sort of have a tangent that I decided should become its own video. So to get into it, my makeup and skincare goal for 2019 is to determine how much my current beauty routine costs per year compared to how much I bring in, and use that information to inform future purchases and budgeting strategies. So I recently started watching Hannah Louise Poston, I believe is how you say it, and I really like how she has a beauty budget this year. But she used her no-buy to figure out price ranges, I guess, that she's willing to spend on things. Even though I'm not including skincare in my no-buy, I don't overbuy skincare anyway, so I just want to figure out what it costs to do my face, basically. Not including hair or body care stuff, because I just don't buy a lot of that. And like, for example, with shampoo and conditioner, I can compare whatever I'm using right now to something else, and I can sort of just buy whatever's on sale at the moment, because there's a few things I like to use that are cruelty-free. And I have my favorite body wash, so I don't feel the need to go looking for a new one that's cheaper, because it's pretty cheap anyway. So in my little notebook here, I'm going to put, excuse my nails, they're disgusting, the total number of items I finished and the cost separated between makeup and skincare, and then the total amount that I've spent, and that includes things that people have purchased for me. So for example, if my mom buys my moisturizer for me, I'm still going to write it down, because the point is to figure out what it costs, not what I'm spending, because in a few years I'll be spending it all on my own, so it sort of is irrelevant right now who's spending the money. The fact is the money's being spent. And I'm separating, I have my rules here, I'm separating it by, ideally it would be 2 months per page. And as you can see right now for January, I haven't finished or bought anything, so there's nothing written down. Actually, that's not true. I finished an eyeshadow, so I should write that down. I did finish this perfumed body lotion from Versace that came in a set, and I got this like 2 years ago. It's one of those things where I get a gift of perfume sets, and the stuff that comes with it isn't something I would repurchase, so I'm going to write this down, but it's not something that would go into my budget for future years. To get into my no-buy rules, my first rule is to extend my eyeshadow no-buy to at least the end of 2019. My no-buy for eyeshadow is supposed to be from April of 2018 to April of 2019, but I'm extending it until the end of December 2019. And I don't know if I had specific rules for my eyeshadow no-buy, other than I'm not allowed to buy or ask for eyeshadows, which I will get into later as to why I think that's effective, because for some people, not asking for things isn't the same as not getting them. My second rule is necessary purchases and unexpected gifts aren't fails. And an example I put for a necessary purchase would be the Anastasia eyeshadows in Fresh or Noir. I wanted to talk about my matte eyeshadow collection. So this here are all my matte eyeshadows. I have one brow bone highlight / primer setting shade, and I have one black that I used to set my liner. I have two neutral transition shades, one cool tone transition shade, and a bunch of browns. This is the eyeshadow I finished. This was a brow bone setting shade like this, but a little whiter. The reason that I'm giving myself the exception of necessary purchases is because when this is gone, I could use setting powder, but I don't know if that'll work well, so I might need to buy more of that. When I finish this matte black, I have one other black in my collection, which is Urban Decay Creep, and it's more like a satin gray with shimmer. It's like really ugly, so it doesn't, I've tried it for that purpose before, it doesn't work, so I need to buy more of that. I didn't write it down, but ABH Stone, which is my only cool tone transition shade, I do consider a need because I could buy other brands' cool tone eyeshadows, but that's the one I really like, and that's the only one I have right now. However, I could use any of my darker cool tone mattes and try to blend them out to be light enough. And I will talk more about that in a minute. My third rule is trading makeup with friends is fine as long as eyeshadow numbers don't go up. Right now, I believe I have 82 eyeshadows because I finished one and I had 83 for my inventory. So, I just can't get more eyeshadow from my friend, but I can give eyeshadow. Number 4, no highlighter until I pan them all. I don't have them in front of me, but I have 3 highlighters, and before I was happy with one, but I asked for 2 for Christmas thinking I would only get one as a gift, but I ended up getting both. So I'm good for like the next 4 years or so with highlighter. Number 5, no lipstick unless it fits exception 2 or 3. 2 being necessary purchases and unexpected gifts, and 3 being trading makeup. So if I trade any makeup item with my friend and I get more lipsticks, that's fine. I don't plan to do any makeup trading anytime soon because there's not anything specific I'm looking for, and there's not anything specific that I hate so much I want to trade it. Number 6, any tempting palettes, singles, etc. will be duped using my collection and current wish list first. So a big problem I have is I will look at a palette or a duo or a trio or singles or whatever, and I'll be like, oh my god, I love that, I need it. And I forget to look at my collection, and I also forget to think about other things that I already want. So on my computer, I have a Word document that's a master wish list of every single makeup item I want. And the reason I do that is, for some people that might not be a good idea, but for me, I can easily compare what's on my wish list and say, actually, I want this more than that, so let me delete that. So then, instead of deleting it, I actually cross it out and type a note as to why I don't want it anymore, and then I put it at the bottom of the list so I don't later try to add it again. I can just search in the document if that is in the Word document, and it'll show up, and I can read my note as to why I don't want it anymore and be like, oh yeah. So the bulk of my eyeshadow wish list right now is cool tone mattes and a few more Anastasia singles to replace mattes that I finish from other brands, like a dupe repurchase thing. Number 7, sales and special promotions aren't a good enough reason to make a purchase unless it's to fill a need, not a want. On my Instagram, I did an unofficial project pan, and I think it was called Eyeshadow No Buy Loophole Project Pan, which is very specific to Anastasia having the 4 shadows for $32 promotion. When I need to repurchase when I need to repurchase this eyeshadow and this eyeshadow, it doesn't make sense for me financially to spend $24 for 2 singles when I could get these 2 and 2 other shadows for $32. So my thought was, when this shadow, and this shadow are gone, I'll get those and then something else. What happened with the Loophole project pan is I actually did do that. So I finished, well, didn't finish everything, but let me show you. This quad of eyeshadows right here I purchased during my no-buy because I had this little brow bone highlight left, and I had one in my Becca eyeshadow palette. Here's my Becca, the 4 shadows left in my Becca palette. I finished the brow bone highlight in that. ABH Chiffon has a dip in it. This had fallen and shattered, so I dropped all my eyeshadows at one point. It shattered, and it mixed in. Parts of it, like the pieces on my floor, were mixed in with this shadow and with this shadow. So what seemed to be just chiffon got pressed into here. What looked like it was mixed with this shadow was pressed into another pan, and what looked like it was mixed with this shadow was pressed into another pan. And then I had a black, which is currently, the empty pan is now holding a glitter. So my plan was, if I finish 6, I think it's 6 pans of eyeshadow, but it's really 4. It was 2 brow bone highlights, chiffon, noir. If I finished those 4, it would be acceptable for me to buy 4 because my numbers wouldn't change. Unfortunately, I didn't finish chiffon in time for me to buy this quad. The only one not being a replacement is Pose, which is a similar dupe to an eyeshadow I actually like from the Naked 2 palette. But for me, doing it this way, where I'm buying eyeshadows I know I'm going to use, that to me isn't a fail for the no-buy. It's just, I'm replacing things, and even if it includes a single or 2 that aren't replacements, it's better to spend $32 than $24 for 2. It's just like per shadow it's cheaper. And I decided the purpose of a no-buy is to gain financial stability, kind of depending on who's doing the no-buy and what it's for. And for me, buying the Anastasia singles, which are my favorite eyeshadows, in sets of 4 is better than in any other quantity. I guess I could buy 8 at a time, but I don't really want to do that. And I needed to add rule number 7 about the sales because on Black Friday they typically will have a bonus sale of, like, the first year it was 75% off. I think last year it was only like 20 or 25. But on Black Friday they usually have a discount on their single shadows on their website, and I'm not allowed to buy things that aren't necessities during that sale. So even though I have a large enough wish list of their shadows that I could do that and save a lot of money, I have 18 matte shadows right now that work for me, and I have 11 satin eyeshadows that I've decided would work well in the crease that I've either tested or aren't shimmery enough to not work for that. So I'm not buying more eyeshadow unless it's something that I feel like I need. I'm also not someone who will use things in a way that I don't like, or not repurchase something that I need just for the sake of a no-buy. Like, if I run out of mascara, I'm going to buy a mascara. If I run out of a matte black eyeshadow, I love setting my liner with that every day. I think it brings everything together, and I just don't want to do my makeup without it. It's going to be a need for me, whereas someone else might be like, use something else. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to buy what I feel like I need to buy. I'm just not getting non-necessities into my collection this year. Number 8 is to continue using my Snups app to organize every individual shadow, including empties, to keep track of dupes. I take a photo of each of the 82 or 83 eyeshadows I have, and I categorize them in color families, and I now have, I think they're called shelves on the Snups app, a shelf for 2019 empties. So the reason I like doing that is, for example, I can put all of these like dark brown shadows in a shelf on my app, and I can see how many dark brown eyeshadows I have and how similar they are. And I've actually found dupes doing this because my collection isn't that large, so I thought I knew what all the dupes I had were, but I actually was wrong. So like, I have a shelf for gold eyeshadow, I have a shelf for light pink inner corner highlights, like every single thing has a shelf. I think I have like over 10 brown shimmer shadows that are all very similar, so that's a problem area. It helps me identify problem areas. And going back to number 6, using my Snaps app to identify dupes in my collection is very helpful, because then when I'm like, okay, not only is this similar to this shadow, but it's similar to this entire color family, if that makes sense. Rule number 9 is to use throwing shade to weed out the shit from the good stuff and get comfortable with the idea of decluttering. This one is where I'm going to be doing a tangent video on hoarding, makeup hoarding, and hoarding disorder, the actual mental disorder, because I have a problem with decluttering. I can't do it with eyeshadows. I don't know why. I just can't. There's very few times I've traded eyeshadow for other eyeshadows with my friend, but I cannot declutter. There are things in my eyeshadow collection that I do not like, and I, for some reason, can't get myself to declutter them. That's going to be a separate video about makeup hoarding in general in the community, as well as the mental disorder, because there's a lot of similarities, and there's also more things I want to talk about with that. So yeah, throwing shade, I filmed my update for it, and it came out really horrible, so I'm going to either refilm the last 2 videos for throwing shade and then continue to just do it on Instagram for this year, or I'm going to just do it on Instagram because filming updates for me is hard when I'm at school, because like here, the window's right in front of me, so there's plenty of sunlight. At my school, the light isn't shining in through my window unless it's at like 5 in the morning. So during the day, when it's a time where I can film, the lighting is really shitty. So whatever. I don't know if I'm going to be able to film while I'm at school. But this is my last semester, so hopefully that won't be a problem for very long. Number 10 is my no-buy will continue regardless of slip-ups. I see a lot of people treating no-buys and low-buys like crash diets. Like, you do a diet for a short amount of time, but you eat a lot right before and after, and if you mess up at any time, you immediately quit. And I think what the difference between a lifestyle change and a temporary pretend fix of a problem is continuing to put in the effort to change, like, with inside of you, how you live your life, how you view your life, and your habits. It requires continuing to do whatever you need to do regardless of how many times you mess up. So if I buy an eyeshadow palette, I'm not going to say, oh, I failed my no-buy and now I'm going to stop. The no-buy is a set of rules that I'm going to follow till the end of 2019. And whether I accomplish that or not is besides the point. This is what I'm doing for the year. Hannah, who I will link, she did a video on, I don't remember which video it was. She talked about how it's really a choice if you do your no-buy or not. Like, you either make the decision to do it or not, which I agree with. There's a lot of, in no-buys, there's this sort of language around it where we talk about, and I think she had touched on this, where we talk about, like, trying to do something, or, like, I can't give a good example, but basically the way we talk about no-buys, it's like, almost like it's not a choice, but it is. When you break your no-buy, you're choosing to buy something that doesn't fit your rules. And what I wanted to talk about in my hoarding video is there are circumstances where buying things is actually legitimately outside of somebody's realm of control, in that scenario, if you genuinely feel like you can't stop yourself from buying something, that is an indication of a potential mental disorder or a hoarding tendency. And when I say hoarding tendency, I mean symptoms similar to hoarding disorder without being clinically significant enough to get the diagnosis. And I want to talk about that more in a separate video, but for my no-buy, I know that my shopping is under control, and my biggest issue is getting rid of things. I have a hard time still. I had hoarding disorder when I was a child, and now the biggest issue is just still letting go of things. I actually have decluttered this week and last week. I went through all of my belongings and decluttered so much. I'm getting good at it, and I've been fine with the shopping for a long time, but it's the getting rid of things I have a hard time with. So this year is about forcing myself to really sit with my collection of eyeshadows and giving myself the time and the space to make a decision about what I want to get rid of and what I don't. I think the thing with hoarding is I need that time with it. I know it takes me a long time to make those kinds of decisions, so having so much eyeshadow coming into my collection doesn't work with that, and that's why I need a no-buy. The last thing I want to touch on is gifting. With my family, my friend group, our system of gift giving is basically you come up with a list of what you want, and the other people pick what they want to get you. So when I say that for my eyeshadow especially, that I'm not asking for any, what that means is there will be no eyeshadow gifts unless someone goes out of their way to buy eyeshadow outside of the lists I give them or for something different. So if I put 10 to 20 makeup items on a wish list for Christmas or my birthday, it's very unlikely that someone will pick something that's not on that list because there's so much variety there for them to choose from. Generally, when I get gifts that are off list, it's non-makeup items. So I showed in my Christmas haul, I got puppy slippers for Christmas, and those are cute. And I get other things. So when I say I'm not asking for eyeshadow as gifts, what I'm saying is there will most likely be no eyeshadow coming into my collection. And actually, Christmas and my birthday are the times where I get most of my eyeshadows. I don't buy eyeshadow very often, and when I do, I don't buy it in like large quantities. It's just my pattern of like shopping before has been budgeting out how much of my Christmas and birthday gifts I want to be eyeshadow based on either a price budget, or it's usually like some sort of price budget that I'm given ahead of time for gift giving, deciding I want this percentage of that budget for gifts to be eyeshadow, and then I end up getting 10 plus eyeshadows per holiday when I can only finish anywhere from 10 to 12 in a year. So it looks like my microphone cut out for part of the end of whatever I was just talking about. So basically I was saying I'll update when I can, I'll film when I can. You're either going to see more videos from me during the semester, or I will be back to filming towards the end of May and beginning of June after I graduate and I move back here. And thank you for watching. I'll see you whenever. Bye.